Welcome to the Big Biz Show. Taking care of business. You want fast-talking, hard-hitting discussions on business and finance? Maybe with a barroom slant and some really salty peanuts? We're not counting calories. We're counting cash. Before we get to the man with the financial plan, meet the money team. Costa, Mary, now Captain Finance himself, Sully.
Wherever you're listening, we welcome you to the Big Biz Show. We are inside the Lotfront Hunter Studios in Southern California. And as we like to say around these here parts,
we never
big old howdy to you. Woo! It sings, as they say in the music business.
During the financial meltdown, personal financial meltdown the last couple of years, under that administration, we saw a stock market that went through the roof. Mm-hmm. Now, are we in a bubble here? I mean, I mean, it's because
love the conversation, right?
Right.
So one, you have the aspect of all the money printing, right? I mean, we have Fed going back to zero rates, like the universe is about to collapse. At the same time, the government spends trillions of dollars, PPP loans and checks to everybody. So you have a bunch more dollars in the system. That's going to throw valuations sky high. So if there's only $1 billion in the world and Apple stock is worth $100 a share, and all of a sudden there's now $4 billion in the world because the money printers just were let loose, then you're gonna have $400 Apple stock. And so that happens to valuations all the time.
Sure. Yeah. And now it doesn't mean though. See, the valuation is basically the share price times the outstanding shares. Mm-hmm. Now, that means that's what your company's worth, but not necessarily sometimes. And I keep on using Starbucks as an example. Starbucks at one point was trading, 80% below their book value at some point. And they had 1 billion stores still. And you realize, look, it was just an undervalued company that got itself in some financing.
The Oracle of Omaha made his bones off finding companies.
Exactly, which is the point here, right? Yeah. Is you have to go with what you like, but you have to go with longevity versus maybe going granular on who's in the lunchroom, what are their earnings. What are we looking at here in terms of valuations in this new kind of regime?
So a good way of measuring a stock is its price to earnings multiple. The price of the stock divided by the earnings that the company makes, the money that the company produces.
Now, keep in mind, this is not price to revenue.
No,
this is price to earnings.
Earnings.
And this is important because you can manipulate price to earnings like they did back in the 80s and 90s by firing people and reducing your payroll. So your earnings went up, right?
Yeah, you can be very short-termist about it, but the market gets hot, it gets excited, and as you can see in the chart, there are periods of time when we're valuing companies at levels, a basic restaurant that normally trades at maybe 20 times its earnings, trades for 50 times its earnings. So we see a couple of examples of how the markets get overzealous, and you see the situation that we're in now in 2025, and it looks pretty stark to me. I mean, this is just one metric that shows how overvalued the market.
But I want you to see something on this chart, folks, and if you can bring it up again. Go back to 1929. If you're just a technician, technical technician, and you go back and you see at the very left of the chart before you see 1929, you see every time there's a peak, there's a valley, and there's a lower peak. So each new peak each new high is lower than the previous high. Each new low is lower than the previous low is what you're seeing before you see the 1929 high. Now, that's a technical indicator that will tell you that it's probably a dog without a bone, and it's going downhill. Another technical indicator that you see all through 29, 65, 1999 is what you see as a double top pattern. Yep. You see a top in 1929, and then a drop, and then another top, and then guess what happens? Same thing happens in a very short period in 65, same thing happened in a very longer period in 1999. Yeah, those double tops and double bottoms, well, I'll tell you what, you need to take a look at three things. You need to take a look at who's in the lunchroom, fundamentals. You need to take a look at what's going on the street, what's the news say, but you got to look at technical analysis also. Because if most people buy a stock at 100, and that stock goes down to 80, and hope against hope they don't get rid of it. What do you think they're going to do when it goes to 100? They're going to sell it. So that's predictive technology.
I got out of that.
So you can see what people are going to do. More from that coming up here. Howard.
Exactly right.
All right. We're overvalued.
Howie Font is our Big Biz Show market analyst. Always better when he's in studio, not in the Big Apple. Keep it here. Lots more to come with him as the Big Biz Show rolls on.
Loft 100 Studios, The Big Biz Show, and our affiliates and our hosts are not registered investment advisors or broker-dealers.
Our show hosts make no commitment that the purchase of securities of companies profiled or otherwise mentioned in our programming
are suitable or advisable for any person, or that an investment in such securities will be profitable in general.
Given the nature of the company's profile and the lack of an active trading market for the securities, investing is highly speculative and carries a certain high degree of risk.
We profile selected publicly traded and privately held companies on our program.
Most of these companies that we profile have provided compensation to Loft 100 Studios and its hosts for the profile coverage.
From time to time, we sell shares of the companies profiled in the open market that we receive as compensation for coverage of client companies.
But never sell stocks if we are speaking about interviewing or covering a public company who has paid compensation.
Specific questions on compensation can be obtained by contacting producer at sullyandgroup.com.
Listeners should verify all claims and do their own due diligence before investing in any securities mentioned on this program.
Investing in securities is speculative and carries a high degree of risk.
We encourage our investors to invest carefully and read the investor information available at the websites on the
Securities and Exchange Commission at sec.gov and or the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA, at www.finra.org.
I like it.
Hey, is that a rescue plane?
Big Biz Show continues live from the Loft 100 Studios. Very fun show so far. Glad you guys are part of the ride. They are Day Trader Trio. So lucky to be able to listen to them every single episode. Back here at the bar, it is Costa. It is our Big Biz Show market analyst, Howie Font, and of course, Sully.
We have a channel on TikTok Money called Sully Speaks Money. It's got 3 million active views, 100,000 followers. We don't do a lot with it because we don't know what the discourse is going to end up showing between the parties and TikTok. But there's TikTok bans happening. Here to talk about that, Corey Perlman, our keynote speaker from social media. He's one of our favorite guests. You can certainly go to his website, CoreyPerlman.com or ImpactSocialMedia.com. Corey, what's going on? We got bans happening again. Is this a real thing, or is this a Cold War between the administration and TikTok?
Well, the breaking news is we were coming down to the wire here, and according to Trump, they have a framework in place for them to divest ownership to more U.S.-based companies so that TikTok can stay alive and well in the States.
When you say divest ownership, what's the percentage that they, I guess, have to give up?
Well, Trump wants 51%. I'm not sure it's going to get there yet. We don't know what the percents are going to be. But the key for us in the U.S., supposedly, is the data. And they're saying that the data will be owned by a U.S.-based company.
So here's my question. What does it do to businesses? Because, look, TikTok is more than just a social media time suck for kids. It's actually a business model for many businesses, and it's a business model and it's a source of information, unfortunately, because I personally went to the University of Google, which is way better than the University of TikTok. But what does it really mean for business in terms of businesses that are involved deeply with TikTok as a business model?
So here's what I would say. It's still a very young demographic. So if your demographic is somewhere between 26 and younger, then TikTok's definitely a place you want to plant your flag. But as I say about all social sites, and this includes you guys, Sully, be careful about putting everything in one basket because it is rented land. Yeah. And what I said could easily change. And the next thing you know, they could pull the rug from underneath you.
Corey, what do you think about if there actually is a deal? Do you think we're going to actually get the same recommendation algorithm that ByteDance created? I mean, are the Chinese willing to give that up? And then why is there any kind of time pressure at all if there's a law passed, signed by the president, and it's just been extended? Can't we kind of stay in this limbo for longer?
In perpetuity.
Yeah, that's kind of what I think has been happening and could continue to happen is I do think that Trump really wants this to work so he can keep pushing it out. And the big question is Congress going to pass it? And so, yes, it could get the stone could continue to get pushed down the path. And businesses just need to recognize that until we have something in place, they are very vulnerable, and so are their followers and their audience.
Hey, Corey, I've got a question for you. You just mentioned don't put your eggs in one basket. There's a lot of people that follow the show, a lot of people that watch the show. We get emails all the time, and some of them have pretty significant followings because they like to attach their cart to our wagon, so on and so forth. So let's say you've got a company or a brand out there that has significant following in a certain, not necessarily just TikTok, maybe there's other ones. How do you transfer that following? Because you don't want to keep your eggs in one basket. How do you cross promote those things?
It's a great question. So what I often will say is try to get your followers to turn into email lists, because you can't own that data, right? So anything that you can do to control the controllables. And so we'll often tell businesses to run contests, to do opt-in contests, things of that nature, to exchange a follower for an email address. And that way, if God forbid the worst thing happens, you still have that database to work off of.
Corey Perlman is a social media keynote speaker. He's owner of Impact Social Media Inc. website, CoreyPerlman.com, ImpactSocialMedia.com. Corey, I just saw a video the other day of a kid trying to film something up on a skyscraper in Los Angeles, stumbled, fell off the building. Obviously, we know what happened to him. What are, as far as the parameters and the warnings, or the fact, will TikTok get to the point where they just don't allow stuff like that to be seen anymore?
That's a $1 million question. I really don't know the answer to that. I think that I sure hope so. As a dad of a teenage daughter, there's we could have a whole conversation around that. But we'll see what U.S.-based companies get involved and how much they want to put parameters in place to keep us safe. At this point, I'm not holding my breath.
The other thing too is that dark web stuff happens, and I will tell you, whatever side of the political fence you're on, I don't need to see a Charlie Kirk. I don't need to see anyone get shot in the neck and fall back. Look, I mean, there's enough. If I want to see it, I'll go drop down my $20 and go to a movie theater and watch that. But it's a very, very fine line there, and it's a very dangerous conversation because you're talking about banning, and you're talking about
censorship.
Censorship. But at some point, there's got to be some sort of a moral standard that goes. And it already exists. Okay, it exists with full frontal nudity. It exists with certain words on the internet. I mean, look, it's not illegal. It's not censorship. But there's just this understanding that maybe that our kids don't need to see a little bunny get turned into red mist because of an AK-47 in a video, right?
And you would hope that the companies would take ownership over that. You would hope that the government wouldn't have to step in. And I think that's what all of us hope for, is that these companies take all that into consideration and put some guidelines and guardrails intact so that our kids don't suffer.
Yeah, I think the question is what's next, right? What is going to be the latest in terms of what's going to be the 3.0 in terms of social media, right? Which really is where we're at. What do you think happens? What if you put your crystal ball in front of you?
Well, I think that a deal will be made because, as you and I have discussed before, money moves the needle, and TikTok's a big money generator for a lot of U.S.-based companies. So I think a deal will be made. The answer to your question about the future of our society with that, I think it's more about all of us needing to control what we can control and make sure that our kids have some serious rules in place around social media.
Howie Font, our lead analyst, has another question. I love when Howie asks questions because it makes me feel
no. I mean, we were
way less.
We were talking about safety and the guardrails you put on. What do you think is the right balance? Do you see the advertisers themselves that make these platforms valuable putting more pressure? I mean, YouTube has its adpocalypse. Facebook brought a lot of moderation back to Texas. I mean, are we better than we were 2 years ago, 5 years ago?
Gosh, I wish I could say yes, but I'm not sure that we are. And I put it in the hands of the parents. I mean, I'm right here doing it myself. And my best advice when the Charlie Kirk situation happened to not only parents, but also just people is to take breaks. You need mental health breaks. You need to do it yourself. You need to put these apps in place to make sure that you are not doom scrolling day in and day out, because it's terrible for all of us.
I think better for me would be just get rid of the stupid little red dot that says how many text messages I've missed and how many phone calls I've missed. because I am like whack-a-mole on that.
We'll have a lesson after class.
I don't want to see that red dot anymore. If I don't see the red dot, then it doesn't exist, right?
You're good. No one's trying to get. Corey, are you amazed by the number of people that have cratered themselves on social media because of Charlie Kirk? And when I say cratered, I mean lost their jobs because of what they posted?
Yeah, I think that it's a tough situation, Mike. I mean, it's for all sides involved. It was a very terrible chapter in our country, and you just saw the worst of every different angle and every different side. And so I went out and I shot a video and I just said, get off social media. You're not going to change anyone's opinion, and nothing but bad is going to happen if you stick on the platform. So take a break, take a mental health break.
Hey, totally. Hey, Corey, last question. I ask you this almost every time. Anything popping up as the new latest, greatest to take over for Instagram or for Instacart's my favorite social media?
Yeah, you love Instacart, the cucumbers, the
face space,
all that. MySpace might make a comeback. I really just think it's AI right now. I think AI is the ticket, and all the same things that we're talking about with being able to dupe. We've talked about that before, and putting parameters in place around that. So AI is still an infant, and it's growing leaps and bounds every day. So I think that's in my crystal ball right now, is watching what that thing's going to do.
Corey Perlman, the social media keynote speaker. He is a welcome guest on the show every time. Owner of Impact Social Media, Inc. CoreyPerlman.com, ImpactSocialMedia.com as well. All right. It is the Big Biz Show. We are inside the Loft 100 studios here in Southern California. Wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening. Thanks for being along for this crazy ride. You're watching the Day Trader Trio right there. Best in the business, no lessons, self-taught. Back here at the bar, it is Costa, it is Sully, and it is one studio. Our market analyst, Howie Font, in studio.
So glad to be here.
And we are brought to you by Prudential. Let Prudential be your rock for retirement. Also brought to you by Bayer Advanced. Better science, better results. Don't take it for your headaches, Mike.
Learn the hard way.
This is the fertilizer made by Bayer. Bayer Advanced. Starbucks coffee. We're hopped up on some right now. And of course, Bloomin' Brands and their Australian food at Outback Steakhouse. They got bloomin' onions growing on the side of the road on the way to Perth. You can hear us and see us everywhere. Of course, BizTV, American Forces Network, Apple Podcasts, Roku, Fire TV, iOS, Apple TV, YouTube. We are everywhere.
Good Lord, we are everywhere.
Kirk Huntsman, the CEO of Vivos, has a fantastic bizumentary that can be seen everywhere, including Spreaker now.
Kirk Huntsman, CEO of Vivos Therapeutics, the man who has given my wife peaceful night's sleep back on the reg. Ticker symbol VVOS. He's back with us here on the Big Biz Show. Kirk, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Good to see you, Kirk. I have to say, you guys took a left turn into prosperity land when you decided that, if just to catch you up, Vivos has a obstructive sleep apnea device. Mm-hmm. It's an oral device that over the course of anywhere from 6 months to 18 months can literally change your biology to where you're not only not snoring, you're standing up straighter, you're living, and Mike is, what he was joking about is Meg is now, she's got to skip to her step now. She's actually sleeping. She looks better. You both look better.
Exactly.
So, and you used to sell these products, Kirk, through the dentist's office. Well, now you're sending them through sleep centers. And what happened was, it kind of changed the model. I want you to do two things for us, for people who haven't heard from you for a couple weeks. Number one, talk about what Vivos does. Number two, talk about this new shift in sort of the new revenue funnel.
Yeah, so for the last 45 years, anybody that was diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea would almost always be prescribed a CPAP. That ugly sort of Darth Vader mask that nobody ever wants and nobody wears and everybody hates. And so we came along and introduced a technology that actually has, through an oral appliance device, that's how we got connected with dentists. We introduced to the marketplace an alternative that would be able to reposition the tissues of the oral cavity, redevelop those tissues, and open up the airway, bottom line, to make everybody sleep better, less prone to apnea events, which is where you can't breathe. And so we introduced this technology, but the dentists they just weren't doing it. So about 2 years ago, we decided if we are going to realize the full potential of this technology, we needed to get it in front of more patients. And the place to do that is with the sleep testing centers or the sleep test labs around the country. That's where patients first come to realize that they have this condition. They're meeting with a sleep specialist, and the sleep specialist basically is going to tell them, okay, here are your options for treatment. And we wanted to have a seat at that table. And so we went out, we bought a bunch of sleep centers in Las Vegas, Nevada, ironically in the city where nobody sleeps.
Yeah, listen, I will say, Kirk, when he told me this, said, Kirk, do you remember the logo, the tagline on Las Vegas?
Everybody's wearing their device at the craps table.
He goes, that's why we want to be there. It's brilliant.
Well, believe it or not, the main sleep centers that we acquired, they test 3,000 patients a month, new patients for sleep apnea. 90% of those patients come out with a positive test. And they were all getting their CPAPs and nobody was using it, and the doctors were frustrated. And so when they heard about us coming along and we were looking for this, it just became a great marriage. We've been in there now 90 days, and I can tell you that it's going spectacular. We are over the moon excited about this. Patients are taking treatment at record rates. They're excited about their treatment. They're excited to have an option besides CPAP. And really interesting, patients that have given up on CPAP or who use it reluctantly or intermittently have come in and said, I want this treatment because I want to be rid of my CPAP. I want to get off my CPAP. There are tens of millions of CPAP users out there who would love to do the same thing. And so we are extending this model out across the country. We have other sleep center clinics that have contacted us or that we've reached out to that are in negotiations, and we're going to be adding to the pool as we go forward here. And we're just super excited about this. This is a game changer for us because we now can help patients in ways that they've never had this option before. It was almost automatic that patients would get a CPAP.
And of course, if you read between the lines, if they're opting for this treatment, that's revenue. Okay.
Oh yeah.
If they're, that's directly buying these devices, which is significant. Mike, talk about your experience when you went in San Diego here to see the doctor.
Well, I went into Dr. Sabine Perps, my dentist, and along with Kirk was with me, and she, she kind of walked me through. Hey, this is your mouth's all jacked up, your throat's all jacked up.
You don't have that stomach anymore.
Nope.
You don't have that. I mean, honestly.
No, and you're breathing through an airway that's about the size of a red cocktail straw, and so.
Which you're familiar with.
Yeah. Speaking of Vegas, and I went in. It was so easy to do. I got the 3D X-rays and stuff. I got measured for my appliance. Vivo sent it to me. I pop it in during the day. I pop it in at night when I go to sleep, and it is so simple. It was simple with
and what she's showing there, the dentist is showing you
that's my sleep test.
That's a take-home sleep test.
Yeah, and you just hook it up to the phone, and then you send the data to them.
And those are the willing participants. Now the other ones that are learning that they have sleep apnea are going to sleep centers.
Sleep centers, right?
Which is sort of, so you kind of got a 1-2 punch here going, Kirk. You got both sides going, right?
Yeah. And, the beauty of this is it won't be very long before Mike's treatment will be over with.
Yep.
So this is a treatment that not only is it highly effective and safe, but it's not a lifetime sentence. You're not having to do this and fuss with these things, for the rest of your life. It's easy in and out, probably 9 to 12 months. So, Mike, you're coming up on time.
I am.
Yeah, you're going to be done.
Are you? Is this turned into a security blanket for you when you put it in at night?
1,000%.
Like you think you'll continue to keep it in?
Yeah. Well, I might. I don't know.
I can see that. And that goes to how non-invasive it is, right, Kirk?
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that he's willing to keep it on when he doesn't have to. Shows that it's really a non-invasive procedure.
And the CPAP, Kirk, the CPAP mask is so romantic, though. It's kind of hard to get away from that, wearing that at night. But I'll go with the Vivos.
Hey, there are
appliance.
sacrifices that have to be made, Mike. Sacrifices have to be made.
That's for sure. Hey, Kirk, real quickly, we got 5 months left in the year. Are you focusing on more acquisitions for sleep centers, focusing on more technology? What are you guys looking at here for the next year?
Man, all of the above. We're about to release some newly published data that came out in the European Journal of Pediatrics. You'll see that in the next little bit here. And there's a study that was just read at the World Sleep Congress over in Singapore this last week. Great things are in the offing for Vivos.
All right,
here.
very good. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. Kirk Huntsman, can't wait to see you back in San Diego. I know you're busy. I may talk to him 3 times a day. Now he just barely takes my call. He goes, Sam, I'm going to block him.
Kirk Huntsman, CEO of Vivos Therapeutics, ticker symbol is VVOS. Also important, VIVOS.com. That is the website to go to get your sleep back.
And look for his documentary on the silent killer of obstructive sleep apnea everywhere you find podcasts and television.
All right, keep it here. Lots more to come. We will not put you to sleep, I promise. Big Biz Show continues. Hope you guys are having a great day. We certainly are. One of the reasons is because we get to listen to the Day Trader Trio every single show. Back here at the bar, it's Costa. It is Howie Font. And, of course, it is Sully.
I want to see what happens when Bitcoin turns into Ethereum. Bitcoin, in my mind, is an investment vehicle, something to invest in, like a piece of real estate, like a share of Apple.
Gold is a great analogy.
But Ethereum is turning into a financial base. And I think that's interesting. Here to talk about that, Charles Allen.
Charles Allen is the CEO and chairman of the board of BTCS Incorporated, their ticker symbol BTCS, and he joins us for the first time right here on the Big Biz Show.
Actually,
Charles?
Well, for the first time with you. Charles and I have a history together.
Are you serious?
He taught me about Bitcoin and Ethereum and everything else and why Ethereum matters. Right? Do you remember those conversations, Charles?
That was like 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, right. No, I have to tell you, it's so great to see you again because everything you said was going to happen happened. And I thought, do I get this guy back on the air so he can rub my nose in it, or do we let him take a victory lap? But it's fantastic because Ethereum does matter. It's the new financial internet. Talk about what I was just saying. When I think about Bitcoin, well, this is how I think about this, first of all. We're all in the world of digital currency. We all have the same $40 in our wallet. Unless you've tipped somebody, you haven't used your cash for the last 6 months. Number two, there is this blockchain that makes things more, I think, efficient and fraud-proof. But then you've got the currencies and the tokens and everything else behind it. I think what's interesting in this world is that you've got an investment vehicle, but you also have a financial tool. And not since the dollar have you seen something like that. Talk about, I'm going to let you take it away from here, Charles. Talk about what's going on in that world and in your world.
I mean, I couldn't agree more. And we pivoted to Ethereum a little over five or 6 years ago. And as much as I love Bitcoin, it doesn't do much. It's just a store of value. When I look at Ethereum, it allows for the tokenization of real world assets and the movement of those assets over the internet on a global basis with no intermediary. And that is remarkable. And that's what the internet did for information, 20 plus years ago. Before that, you got newspapers and magazines, and then, the internet brought the proliferation of information on a global scale. And, 25 years later, we're going to do that with assets, and that's going to be built on Ethereum. And so I think that's a fundamental change in how society is going to work. It'll primarily be the back end, but that's really revolutionary. And we're seeing it with stable coins that are built on Ethereum, with all of these other DeFi protocols and products and services that are going to really change the way in which we interact with each other. So it's a pretty exciting time. And we actually have a regulatory framework where you can do this without fear of the government. And so that's really new. That's 9 months old.
Yeah, Charles, pleasure to speak with you. Can you talk a little bit, expand on that, and kind of tell us how important it is that Ethereum is going to be regulated as a security versus Bitcoin as a commodity, and then some of the capabilities that you're going to have? It's the second largest cryptocurrency behind Bitcoin, and you're going to be able to help tokenize liquid assets, private assets. I mean, can you talk about some of the applications and then what the better securities law will do?
Securities law is huge, right? We by way of example, we've held Ethereum for 7+ years, and the SEC would consistently ask us if it's a security, right? And, tell us why it's not, and then they wouldn't allow us to raise, capital or access to capital markets. Now they've kindly come out and said it's not a security, and that is that's a really huge win, because if something's a security, you have to comply with all these laws. There needs to be an issuer. Well, how do you have an issuer that's a decentralized protocol? It's an impossible law to comply with. And so now that we have regulatory clarity, it means large institutions that sat on the sideline that said, hey, this is amazing technology, we can rebuild on this technology how the financial infrastructure works, whether that's NASDAQ looking at blockchain technology or Fidelity or BlackRock. All of these companies were afraid to build solutions on top of a protocol that the government could, was unclear about and was more likely than not a security. Now that it's not a security and it's just a technology stack with the underlying token being a commodity, it really opens the door for huge capital inflows and huge development. And I think that's really recent, and we haven't even seen that really reflected in the market in terms of like the price of Ethereum.
Can you just kind of break us down on DAT?
We actually pioneered this, going back, we've been public since 2014, so we were the first ones to have a digital asset treasury strategy. And then I think that the one everybody knows about is MicroStrategy. And really the concept is you take a cryptocurrency token and you put a public company wrapper around it. And what that does is it allows access to that underlying asset through the public markets, which is much easier for retail investors. It's easier if you hold, stock in a 401k. It's very complex to get that into crypto. It's getting easier today, but you have to manage the keys. You have to have a wallet. There may be tax implications taking a withdrawal. Institutions may have restrictions on what they can invest in. And so once you put a public wrapper around something, and it's not an ETF, because a lot of hedge funds aren't allowed to invest in ETFs. It's you're getting paid a management fee to make investment decisions, not give it to another manager to just hold a single asset. So putting a public company wrapper around a crypto token opens up a lot of doors. It allows for a broader investor base. It allows for you to put leverage on the company. And if it's not an ETF, you're not a 40 Act company, you're an operating company, it allows you to actually have an operating business. And so that's the high level strategy. There's, dozens and dozens of these digital asset treasury plays. I think there's, 30 plus for Bitcoin. I think there's around, close to 10 for Ethereum. And then there's a couple on Solana and all the other blockchains. In the long run, though, I think the value of a company that has digital asset, treasuries, it really isn't going to need to come from the operations.
I think this Ethereum dividend that you have is kind of a good kick in the pants to either cause a short squeeze or defend against shorts. Do you want to explain how that works? Am I accurate in saying so?
No, you are 100%. We actually did this in 2022. We were trading below our liquidation value or book value, or what they're calling now MNAV, about a 20% discount. And we kind of scratched our heads and said, this is ridiculous. We saw high short interest, so we paid the first ever dividend in Bitcoin. It was 5 cents a share, similar to what we're doing today in Ethereum. And that was kind of when we were exiting Bitcoin, so it was a good way to kind of unload it. And it was really interesting what happened when we did that. First, if you're a public company and you say you're going to do a dividend, NASDAQ has to give you an X dividend date. So you set the record date and they have to announce the X dividend date. Well, they wouldn't do that initially. So they said, nope, we want you to talk to DTC. So we talked to the Depository Trust Corporation, and they said, we don't really like the way you're doing it. I talked to 20 people. And then, a week later, I said, well, we'll think about what you said, the way you want to do it. And we came back to them and said, no, we don't like that. We can't KYC our investors. It creates risk. We're going to do it our way. And they said, well, we want you to have a call with our participants. So I got on a call with 140 people. I took screenshots of this. This is crazy. 140 people. I think it was every back office of every brokerage firm. And basically what they told me was there's 4 people that raised their hand and asked questions. We had NASDAQ and DTCC there. And 4 of them asked the same question different ways. They basically said, well, what if we've hypothecated and rehypothecated the shares? And my only thought was, well, that seems like that's your problem. If you've made up shares and let them out, it's
I think they call that a derivative.
So I think what was it saying? Like in crypto, it's not your keys, not your coin, right?
Yeah, right. Sure.
Private keys, you don't own the crypto. And we've seen what happened with Mt. Gox and FTX. And in the stock market, if it's not in your name, it's not your stock.
Right.
That's simple. And so what happened with that dividend, and this is years ago, when NASDAQ finally announced it, our stock traded $500 million in one day. Went up about over 100%. I think peaked at about 140%. There's $250 million worth of failures to deliver, and we were a 30 million market cap at the time.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it made no sense. And now we're trading at a 35% discount to our book value, so we actually have more value in liquidation despite growing revenue, growing operations, in a vibrant business. And we had not the most recent FINRA report, but the one from prior to that was 14% of the public float was sold short. We've had hedge funds sniffing around our ATM, and so we basically decided, hey, let's do this Ethereum dividend again. We'll do 5 cents a share. But we realized the first time we did it it was a bluff, right? We bluffed the market, and they went and covered all their legal and illegal positions. We don't know what was legal versus legal, but there was definitely a lot of shorts outstanding. And the stock went up a lot. I think we raised about $10 million on the ATM on the back of it. And so this time we're like, well, we can't play the same hand. We can't play the same bluff. So let's just pay people 35 cents to get their shares out of street name where they can no longer be loaned and bring them over to the transfer agents, kind of like a game of musical chairs. And we'll see how it plays out. If not a lot of people move their shares, nothing will happen. I would say best case scenario, if every single person moved their shares and our stock continued to trade, I've got a massive, I've got a smoking gun I can go to the SEC with, and I can have a big lawsuit.
Exactly right.
More shares short than are in the public float, again, there's
spoofing, counterfeit shares. There's lots of stuff we can do about it.
100%.
That's for sure.
100%.
We got to get you back, man. We need you on a regular basis. I'm telling you, we're not going to. You're in the mob now. We're not let you out.
That's right. Charles Allen, Chief Executive Officer, Chairman of the Board, BTCS Inc., ticker symbol BTCS. We continue from the Loft 100 studios here, sunny Southern California. Speaking of sunny, the Day Trader Trio always brings a smile to our faces. Big Biz Show rolls on. I'm Costa, and of course, Sully.
That's right. We're brought to you by Prudential. Let Prudential be your rock for retirement. Also brought to you by Bayer Advanced. Better science, better results. Starbucks coffee. I'm jacked up on some right now.
Love it.
Bloomin' Brands, they're fine family of restaurants. I won't go into authentic Australian food, but I will later. Of course, Taylor Guitars, which no one on stage is using right now.
No, it's okay.
We got Mike D. Pasquale back.
Mike D. Pasquale is the Chairman and CEO of Bio-Key International, Inc. Of course, their ticker symbol, BKYI, back with us here on the Big Biz Show. Michael, how are you?
Doing great. Great to be back with you guys again this morning.
I beg your pardon, biometrics.
Yeah.
These days are so, oh, by the way, we do use it for our phone. We use it to get into a door. When you and I first started talking a couple years ago, this was really, really novel. And now with AI and now with what you guys have brought forth in terms of technology, is it a new frontier still, do you think? Or is there a 2.0 happening?
I think we're at the 2.0 version right now. For sure, the technology's matured significantly, much more accurate. It's certainly much more scalable. It's more widely accepted, because as you just described, we're all using it somehow, some way on our mobile phone to get into all kinds of different applications. American Express allows you to use Face ID to access your American Express account online on your phone again or on your computer. So yeah, we're definitely moving into the next gen and the next phase. But what's going to happen here is it's going to scale up significantly. It's going to be big time in everything from financial services to the airport and the airlines.
But to your point, that's happening now. We just went on a trip with a big pile of us here, and even if you're enrolled in something like Clear or TSA Pre, or just go through the TSA line,
right?
Now they are taking a picture of you as you're going through. I mean, and it's every single person. And I got to tell you, it's faster. It's way faster than them. Of course, you have to present your passport still.
Sure.
But I bet there's going to be a time, Mike, when you don't. When it's all going to be right there in your retina, right? I mean, it's got to be close, right?
No doubt. Tokenization, which is, kind of a sister technology to blockchain and, everything else that you hear integrating AI, is going to take the place of the physical document, the passport your driver's license, the card, the key, whatever you hold. But what's interesting is that boarding passes are going to go away. I mean,
no kidding.
That is really the next phase in the context of travel. And so being able to utilize biometrics because they're secure, but more importantly, doing it in a way where they're tokenized and they're encrypted and securely locked and only allowed by you to access them, and who you give a privilege to access it will be the next phase. And so we're seeing, significant upside there. But also, as you know, the world in general isn't as safe as it was even a year or 2 years ago. And so from a national defense perspective, and this is global, right? Not just here in the United States, but all over the world, we're seeing a significant uptick in the need to be ready and to be able to defend homelands, countries, facilities, virtually everything. And biometrics are going to play a huge role in positively identifying individuals that may have access to information, intelligence information, or other things that are absolutely critical and must be contained. So that's also part of, I think, version 2.0 of biometrics.
Mike Pasquale is the chairman, CEO of Bio-Key International, Inc., ticker symbol BKYI. Mike, I'm often on the dark web trying to find ways to, circumvent your technology and things like that. What is that like, the race against the bad guys or the bad actors that are probably out there right now thinking, what can we use this for nefariously?
Well, it's interesting because, the biometrics actually make it harder for those people who are trying to do what they do. Harder, what I mean is harder than just using passwords and pins and tokens and cards and keys, right? So we're already a step, in the right direction. I never say never. I think we've talked about this before because, the hackers are always attempting to be a half a step or a step ahead of us. But with the use of AI, there's the positives and the negatives, right? Just take AI in general. If you're one of those nefarious actors, you can take AI and you can, build all kinds of credentials, documents, faces, whatever you want to build, and try to fake, the system. So that's the bad side. On the good side, we're using AI to thwart many of those attacks. So, it's kind of a balance. But I see the use of the technology and the security associated with the technology, as I just described with tokenization and other solutions that are going to come online, that are going to keep us maybe will be a half a step ahead of the hackers and those who are trying to create havoc in the financial services and the defense ecosystem.
Hey, Mike, I got to ask you, because obviously last month your revenue rose by 50%. A lot of that came from foreign defense ministry contracts. You got a big giant Mozambique deal. I have to ask you, is more of the business coming internationally or versus domestic now, or are we 50-50, or what are we looking like?
Yeah, it's interesting. As I mentioned before, we're finding a really, really powerful niche in that international financial services and defense sector. Because keep in mind, just this past year with the new administration in our country, we're forcing those international agencies to step up, right? Defense budgets are tripling. So we're going to try to take advantage of that. So there is a huge upside and an uptick happening globally, but don't discount what's also happening in our country. So, I think the business will be 50-50. On a quarterly basis, it might rotate back and forth. But what you mentioned is absolutely important. We are growing our revenues year over year. We are growing our revenues sequentially as well. So, we're in a really good position now. And as a company, we're so undervalued to our peers in this space that, we're all feeling very, very emboldened by the potential and the upside, not only for our technology and the adoption of that technology going forward, but also for the upside in financial performance. All ships rise with the tide.
Yes.
And as our business continues to evolve, we're feeling real good about creating value and enhanced valuation for our investors and our shareholders.
Mike Pasquale, CEO, Chairman, Bio-Key International, ticker symbol BKYI. Mike, do not be a stranger. You make us feel a lot safer when you're on the show. We need you on the show more.
Bye, Michael.